We got the whole kitchen going right now. It's gonna be a little bit like a cooking show where we have some of the stuff pre-prepped, but I'm gonna definitely break it down for you guys. You guys are gonna get to know what's going on, okay? We're gonna start off by talking about the sweet potato yams because they take the longest. So yams and sweet potatoes are the same thing, guys. They're not really that different. They are like cousins. You guys can use sweet potatoes if you don't find yams. We're not using any canned stuff today, but you can use canned stuff with the same recipes. It's just gonna be a little less work. Some people prefer, I always prefer fresh, obviously. So we went ahead and peeled the yams. We sliced them to 1/8 circles, okay? So we're just like so. We're gonna cut off the ugly end and just kind of go down. Get a little circles, and we're just gonna go around the dish, and we're just gonna place them. You fill it up. I can't really tilt it too much for you guys, but it's full with the sweet potatoes, okay? All right, I'm going to make a mixture with oil and agave. Usually the classic sweet potato yams or the yam casserole will have sugar in it. I'm gonna use agave. A lot of times what people do is they cook the sugar, they cook the oil and the sugar together. We can avoid that because we're using, this is already liquefied. Okay, so we're just gonna make a mixture. It's gonna be about 2 tablespoons of oil. And about 1/2 cup of agave. This one is gonna be a typically sweet dish, so it does take a little bit more sweetness, a little bit more sugar than we're used to in certain dishes. We don't typically make savory food with so much sugar. We're gonna whisk this together. Okay, so this got a little fluffy here, and I'm gonna add this to the top. We're just gonna kind of layer it on top. I don't know if you guys can see, but this is a little thick, viscous. We're gonna add salt.
Back there.
Just gonna add a little bit of salt. A little bit because this is a sweet dish. It just needs a little bit so it can the flavors can come out. We're gonna put a lid on this casserole dish. And this is gonna allow for the sweet potatoes to steam. Okay. All right. These are gonna take the longest, so that's why I'm starting with this, okay? The oven is at 375 right now. We're gonna put it there for about 40 minutes, so we're not gonna see these guys for a while. All right. All right, so before you guys got here, I actually started some of the acorn squashes so that we can work with them. But I'm gonna cut one open right now so you guys can see what we're working with and how you guys are gonna do this at home. All right, can anyone see? All right, here we go. So, usually if you guys don't have like a knife that's gonna like air when you guys are going in, you might get stuck going into this acorn squash. So you wanna go a little bit halfway, and you don't really wanna go deeper than this, a quarter, 1/4, maybe half of the knife. This is gonna allow you to have a little bit more control. So we're gonna stab it, we're just gonna go down, kind of like what you would an avocado. This nub is gonna be hard, so you don't wanna necessarily cut through that, it's not gonna cut. I'm going around this way, and just kind of go around like an avocado. You guys can see that. There we go. Easy enough. The spoon. Then we're gonna gut these guys. Deseed it. The seeds can be used, you can roast them, you know, you can stir fry them later. Right now we're just gonna compost them. We're just trying to get the acorn squash. So you use the spoon to kind of like carve in there because it's got hairs and it's got little stringy bits. We want to get rid of that. That's undesirable. Smooth. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. Take that off. A metal scoop will work too. I'm just using a basic kitchen spoon. Very similar to pumpkin carving, guys. All right, so we got both here. Thank you. A bit of oil. All right. So we're gonna prepare these for roasting. I'm just gonna put a little bit of oil in the middle. And I'm gonna rub it with my hand, washed, you know. And we're just gonna rub it in there. We're gonna make sure that all the skin has contact with the oil. Okay. We're gonna add a little bit of seasoning, so we're gonna do salt. A little bit of pepper. And since it's seasonal, we're gonna do a little bit of thyme and a little bit of rosemary. We don't have to go too much, just a little bit, guys, because especially the stuffing that we're gonna put in it is already gonna have a lot of flavor. We just want this to also have flavor. Everything should have flavor. Nothing should be bland. So this is garlic powder that I'm adding at the end. You guys can also, if you guys want to go a little extra, you can put actual little slices of garlic clove in there, and while it roasts, it's gonna like really bring out that garlic flavor, especially for those who love garlic a lot. All right, I'm gonna pull out the acorn squashes that we already had. All right. So you can see they kind of get a little shiny. I don't know if you guys can see in the back. I'm gonna flip one over. They're very hot. What we're gonna be doing for this recipe, we're gonna actually be using the meat. So we definitely want to let them cool off before we mess with them, okay? So we're actually gonna carve out the meat, but we're gonna get to that. So this is kind of what it looks like, already cooked. I'm gonna use my knife. I'm gonna just show you guys that I can easily stab through it. That's how you guys know it's done. All right. I'm gonna move these. Yeah, that won't work. Okay, I'm gonna put the ones that I just pulled out to cook while we let these cool off. The little ones are gonna cook faster than the big ones, guys, so just keep that in mind. Especially the way that we cut it. Okay. I'm gonna let them cool off over here. Okay. we're gonna bake them face down, open face down. This is gonna allow the meat to steam when it's baking, okay? The other way around, it's gonna dry on you. So definitely make sure that you put the open face down, or the cut side down. This guy's gonna be our turkey for Thanksgiving or whatever, so this is the star of the show. You wanna make sure that you treat it very nicely. Alrighty.
10.
We're gonna put it at 375 for about 25 minutes, okay guys? 375 for about 25 minutes. And the time varies, just check it out. Mostly what we want is just to be able to pierce through it, okay? We also don't want the skin to be so cooked that it dissolves when we pull it out either. All right. While that's baking, we're gonna start the stuffing. All right, today we're gonna be cooking with petite green lentils, the French green lentils. I like them, especially for this because they're small, they're not really big, so they kind of get like a little ground consistency. They're and then the color also really is nice for the stuffing that we're gonna go and make. And we're gonna use the wild blend rice. So it has brown, it has black, and it has red rice in there. That's gonna be really nice for the colors for what we're doing right now. I'm gonna do about 2 cups of lentils, okay guys? What? About. Yeah, that's fine. We're gonna do the same with the rice. We're gonna do 2 cups. We're gonna cook it all in one dish. It's all gonna be ready. It's gonna be very simple stuffing recipe. It's not necessarily traditional with the bread situation, but this is good for gluten-free people and people just kind of being more of a plant-based situation. And it's very tasty. So we got 2 cups and 2 cups, and we're gonna do about 5-6 cups of water, okay guys? What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna put like about 4.5 cups of water, and I'm gonna add some broth, just to give it a little bit more flavor, okay? Let's turn this sucker on. How'd you get this guy on? We'll use this one. Need a metal spoon or a wooden spoon. All right, so this is like lentils and wild rice. They take a little bit longer than white rice. We're gonna cook them for about 25 minutes. As this is cooking, I'm gonna go ahead and add the other ingredients that take the stuffing, that make up the stuffing. I'm gonna stir it. We don't need to really stir it all too much. It's gonna mix itself, but we definitely wanna make sure that we don't have anything in the bottom sticking too much. We're gonna let this get to a boil, and then we're gonna reduce it, okay? So it's gonna be on high right now, and then we're gonna turn it down as soon as it starts boiling, okay? I'm gonna add some bay leaf. 2 bay leaves, they're very powerful. You don't need a lot. You don't eat these guys, just in case you didn't know. You don't eat these, you pull them out. I got some pre-diced onions in here. Do about 1.5 cups. I'm gonna do 2. We'll do about 2 teaspoons of salt. A little bit over a teaspoon of garlic powder. And all these seasonings, they're really up to you guys on how much to put of each. The important seasonings for stuffing is the combination of rosemary, thyme, and sage. That makes up the typical Thanksgiving stuffing seasoning, guys. Okay. Black pepper. Where did I leave it? Right here. And salt and pepper. I already added the salt, so just some pepper. Alejandra here is chopping some celery for me, and she's gonna be chopping the carrots. Don't fret about starting this and then doing that. You guys can totally start this first, chop as you go, keep adding it. What we want is to make sure that the liquid here is not left over when it's done cooking, because we're going to be using it like a meaty stuffing. We're not going to be using it like a stew. We need to make sure that all the liquid kind of goes away. We want to make sure that that time's right. So we're going to be watching it. I am going to put the lid on it, but for now I'm going to leave it open and keep adding the ingredients as she keeps chopping them up. Is this 2 stalks? That's good. That's all. That's all you need. Cool. Over here, I got a pot of boiling water, and we're gonna get the green beans. I'm using fresh green beans. So we need to have them, we need to stem them and cut them to about, this is a big piece, this is a small piece. Now I did it by hand, and you guys can totally do it by hand too. It's gonna be in a casserole, it's not a big deal. I think it's a little bit less labor intensive and, you know, just going in there with a knife. I just prefer it that way. Feel free to do whatever you guys want. And also you can use canned if it's easier for y'all. So you guys can just buy canned green beans if you like. We're going with fresh. Because we're going with fresh, we're gonna need to make sure that they're cooked. So we're gonna put them in this boiling water. Right now it's still getting there. When it gets to boiling, I'm going to add these green beans until they change color. Until they get a little tender, and they're gonna get a little like grayish green, a little pack. Okay, so that's what's going on with that. Gotta add a little salt to this water. When we're boiling veggies like that, guys, it's good to add a little bit of salt to your water. All right, while that's going, we're going to start with the mushroom gravy. Is this getting on?
No, I didn't want to turn it.
All right, hold on. Forget it. Right, leave it on. All right, we're gonna add about a tablespoon of oil to this. These are pre-sliced mushrooms, so they're ready to go. We're just gonna throw them in there. Yeah, no, that's good. Go ahead and add that. All right, so we're gonna cook these. We're gonna saute them a little bit. That's gonna be the base for our mushroom gravy. So we're gonna let these cook a little bit. Right now it's not that hot, so we're getting it going. While we do that, we're gonna put the carrots and the celery into the stuffings like I said. So we're gonna add this in here. Thank you very much. This was 2 carrots, thin. They're not that big, okay? And 2 celery stalks. Also, you know, up to you guys on how much flavor of what you want. I like carrots. At the same time, this is gonna be more of a savory stuffing. And you guys can make a sweet one by adding raisins, craisins, whatever you guys prefer in that. Right now, we're just doing kind of a savory stuffing. To bring that out a little bit more, I got this vegetarian, vegan Worcestershire sauce. I'm not gonna put a lot of it. It's very strong stuff, guys. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of it just to give a little bit more oomph to this stuffing. We'll do like 2 capfuls, which is about a teaspoon. So it's about 2 teaspoons, not too much. We are gonna add a veggie bouillon. There's veggie powders, there's also pastes, but adding a bouillon will definitely give a little bit more flavor into this. Paste, we're just gonna break it up a little bit and just throw it in here. It's gonna disintegrate. I'm gonna stir this. Yeah. All right, and I'm gonna put a lid on this. We're gonna check in about 15 minutes, okay, guys? I'll put a timer. All right, my water's boiling over here for the green beans. I'm gonna go ahead and dump them in here, okay? The green beans are coming in. Carefully, guys. I'm gonna let that go. Give me another thing too. Okay, my mushrooms are cooking. You guys can hear that. They're gonna take a little bit for them to cook. What we're doing is get cooking till the juices come out, till they are kind of a little bit soft. And that's, like I said, it's gonna be the base for the flavor of the gravy. So we need it to come out a little bit. Yeah. The green beans are gonna take about 5 minutes, not too long. We just need to make sure that they're cooked, soft, tender. And like I said, the color's gonna change a little bit. Okay. This is gonna go. Okay. All right. While that's going, we can mess around with those squashes. Bring me those squashes. Okay, guys. So check it out. This is what we got. They're still a little warm, but they're not nearly as hot as they were. Okay. Give me a bowl, please. Okay. I'm gonna get these 2. Thank you very much. All right, we're gonna scoop out the meat from within the squash. And we're gonna make sure we don't go all the way to the skin. This is gonna be a little bit more finessing on y'all's part. Just don't get too much. A metal spoon helps more. So I'm gonna use this little metal spoon. And the reason why we're doing this is because if you just put the stuffing in here, it's gonna look beautiful, but your guests might not eat the most expensive, nicest part of the dish. So like, let's make sure that that happens, right? So what we're gonna do is take it out for them. And like you can see right here, it's not the easiest. So if you can imagine when they're eating it, they're gonna have to really get in there. And just like a baked potato, if you don't mix it in there, only the top's gonna have the flavor. So we're gonna avoid that by scooping it out and doing kind of like a twice baked potato, twice baked acorn squash. I try to leave about an 1/8 inch, maybe a 1/2 inch to the edge, just so it can keep its shape and keep its hardiness. Thank you. She is going ahead and sauteing those mushrooms. They needed a little movement. Yeah, feel free to shoot one. Everybody's good right now? Everything we bought here is available here at Wheatsville. All right, guys, so check this out. You got the skin all intact, and then this guy mostly empty, okay? Same with this guy. And some of them might not, keep all the way, but that's okay. You don't have to throw them out. We're gonna stuff them back in. They're gonna hold, okay? So this one I'm very proud of. It's beautiful. So yeah, you can see. All right, so here we got the puree or the mash going. I'm gonna go back to my rice here. Okay, it's boiling now. I'm going to reduce the heat now to simmer. Medium, low, simmer. Like if you guys are cooking rice. All right. So with this, we're gonna kind of flavor it like you would your mashed potatoes, okay? So you use vegan butter. Oil is also a good substitute for vegan butter. We're not gonna put a lot. It doesn't need a lot. These are very tasty dishes. We're gonna add like a teaspoon maybe. Okay, not a lot. Maybe like 1/2 teaspoon. That's also optional. You guys don't have to put it. A little bit of salt. Just garlic. A little bit of pepper. We're just gonna add a little bit of garlic. Oil? This oil is safflower oil. It's good for high temperature cooking. Grapeseed oil works really good as well. Conventionally, people use olive oil, but it's not really good for cooking because it has a low smoke point. It starts smoking when you're cooking in high temperatures. So safflower oil holds really well. Grapeseed oil as well. If you guys want to use coconut oil, like I know some people really like, that works as well. All the oils will work. These work really well for cooking in high temperatures. All right, so as you can see right here, I'm just kind of mashing it. They're already very soft. It's not going to take that much work. And it's not going to come out just like a sweet potato. They're still a little stringy and still a little bitty, but they're very soft. Okay. We're going to put them back in here. You don't have to use all of the puree in it. If you feel like you want to use a little bit more stuffing to make it look a little bit more stuffed, you can, but you can also use it all. The only thing that I would recommend is that you guys spread it when you put it back in. You want it to we want to have that that hole that we had originally. So we're gonna try to with the spoon, spread it through the wall. We want to kind of make a wall with it. And I'll show you guys right now what I'm talking about. But we want to push it back and make a wall with this so that we can still leave the center ready for that stuffing that we're making. Oh, my green beans. Okay. All right. So as you can see, I used all of it, okay? And look, we still have the middle is still open, still available for the stuffing. Same for this guy, okay? So that's important. It's very easy to just throw it back in there, but that's not gonna leave you very much room for the stuffing that we're making right here. So you just spread it with the bottom of the spoon and make a wall with it, okay guys? All right, so these guys are ready to go. We're gonna save them. Where's that tray that I had? Yeah. Yeah, you can. I don't need that veggie boy on it anymore. Thank you. We're gonna check out these mushrooms. So the mushrooms already got a little bit juicy, like I said. I'm trying to show you guys here. You can see it's all it is oil and the mushrooms. The juices of the mushrooms came out. I'm liking it. This looks really good. For the gravy, we're using broth and mushroom broth. Veggie broth and mushroom broth. You can only use mushroom broth if you want. You can only use veggie broth if you want. Definitely prefer that you guys add some of this to it. It's gonna give you guys a little bit more of that mushroom flavor. So I'm gonna do half and half. I like that. That's just my preference. You can see how dark brown this is. That's gonna add that color to the gravy really good. All right, so we got 2 cups of the mushroom broth. And 2 cups of this veggie broth. I like this brand of veggie broth, and there's another brand that kind of makes like a dark yellow veggie broth also. It's really good. Just notice if they're light, the broths, they might not have as much flavor. The darker the broth, the more flavor. All right. My green beans here are going. They're just about ready. And we're gonna start working with them very shortly. This gravy here, we're gonna get it boiling. We just need to season it, and then we're gonna make the flour mixture separately. And I'll talk to you guys about it right now, why. All right guys, so we're gonna add, you guys can use regular flour for this. I'm using cornstarch. We're gonna do about 3 tablespoons. I'm just gonna eye it out.
Do you prefer one or the other?
I think flour works really great. If you guys aren't gluten-free, flour works great. That's what they've been using. Starches work great too. That's what they're for, to thicken sauces and gravies. So it's really what you got in the pantry also. But you also need to keep in mind, like I'm sure you guys are cooking for people, you know, their dietary restrictions and their dietary needs. Everything that I'm showing you guys here can be made available gluten-free completely, okay? The only thing in here, just so you guys can know, that has flour in it are these French onions that they also have available in gluten-free form here at Wheatsville, okay? So we got this going. I'm gonna add some of this broth, water, whatever. And what we wanna do is we wanna make it like a little paste. The reason why we don't add it to this is because we don't want it to clump. Okay, so this is very important, guys. We're gonna whisk it before we put it in there. If you throw the flour or starch in the mushroom gravy before, it will clump on you guys. Done it before, don't go that route. All right, so it's gonna look like milk. You know, I'm not sure if you guys can see it. I don't want to tilt it so it pours, but it's just smooth, milky. The big part is just to make sure there's no clumps. We're gonna add that to the gravy. just gonna stir that in. Right now it's on high, and we're gonna get it to boil, and then we're gonna reduce it down, just like the rice. Speaking of which, I'm gonna check on it. All right, this guy still has water in it. It's still cooking. It's looking good. Even though it's on low, it's still boiling. That's okay, that's what we want. Okay, we just don't want it to be on a high heat, because that's when we risk burning. Okay. These are white mushrooms. Any mushrooms will work. At the truck we use portobello, because that's what we have. I've used the baby portobellos. I've seen some people use the wild mushrooms. Really, you can use shiitake. Any mushrooms that you guys really want. That's kind of where you guys can step it up a little bit. You can be like, oh, I use this mushroom gravy, you know. You can make it a little extra fancy by using, you know, not the basic white mushroom, but white mushroom definitely works. All mushrooms will work for this situation. Mushrooms have a lot of flavor in itself, so it helps a lot for these sauces. Okay, so these green beans I feel are pretty ready. I'm going to be moving them. I'm going to be straining them over here on the sink, okay? If you want to shock them, that'll keep them a little bit more crunchy, okay? It's going to go into a casserole either way. It's up to you guys. We can shock them with the cold water just to kind of stop them from overcooking. All right. So I'm gonna go back to the mushroom gravy because I haven't seasoned it yet. So we're gonna add about 2 teaspoons of salt. This is gonna be where a lot of the flavor comes out, guys, so don't be too afraid of adding the salt. If you guys are staying away from it, you know, just taste it until it feels right. And you can always add the salt a little bit later. You don't have to add it now. So we're gonna add some garlic powder. This is about a teaspoon. Some people add chunks of onion. Some people add chunks of carrots. I saw Wheatsville had theirs. It had carrots in it. I prefer mine to just have the sauce and the mushrooms, but we are gonna add onion powder to it. It's for flavor. So also about a teaspoon. If your onion powder, garlic powder is super fine, it can also clump, so be careful how you throw it in there. You don't want to just throw in a whole tablespoon just like that and then watch it clump on you. So just kind of try to spread it as you're putting it in there, okay? And I'm gonna go ahead and whisk this a little bit just to make sure that everything's incorporated. All right, and just for a little extra oomph, we're gonna add the veggie bouillon. Don't have to, but you know, if you really want to impress them, I think this will help. We're gonna add this veggie bouillon to it. All right. This guy's boiling. We're gonna let it get to a little bit of a rolling boil, and then I'm gonna turn it down, okay? All right. We're gonna check on this rice. Okay, this is about done. You guys can't really see this, but the water is kind of boiling through, and it's got like a flat layer where it's not boiling within it, it's boiling through it. And we're just gonna turn it off at that point. We're just gonna turn it off, leave it in here, just kind of let it cook within it. It doesn't need to be cooking anymore, but it's still gonna be cooking through the steam that it's got in here. And hopefully we don't need to add water, hopefully we don't need to take off water. It looks like everything's fine here. All right, this gravy, like I said, it's about to be boiling right now, so I'm going to be reducing the heat to a simmer. And we're just gonna let that go. All right, now we're gonna start this green bean casserole. Is everybody keeping up? Awesome. All right, guys, so when I was making this at home, I was making the green bean casserole and it was tasting amazing, great. But when I came to serving it, kind of had an issue with it, where it's like, as soon as I was taking it out of this casserole dish, it was just kind of like, ugh, you know, it just kind of, because the green bean casserole, I don't know, I'm sure you guys have all had it. So I wanted to think of a way that maybe would step up that, make it a little easier to serve and still have presentation. So I decided to cook them in little cupcake dishes here so that we can kind of make discs. And it could be individual serving sizes like that. Now, you guys don't have to do this way. You can do it on a big casserole dish and just serve it up. I'm just kind of doing this so I can show you guys a little bit higher way to present this green bean casserole, okay? And, you know, just maybe you can show off a little bit too if you want. But I really like the way that it came out like this. And I'm gonna show you guys how I did it. So we're gonna start off with this cupcake baking sheet. We're gonna go back to our oil. You can use cooking spray for this. You can use that vegan butter. I just, you know, I usually have just cooking oil at home, so that's what I go for. I'm gonna put one, I'm gonna just put a little bit in one, and we're just gonna rub it on all of them. Okay? Just gonna rub the oil. And this is why people use cooking spray, because, like, you know, they don't want to get their hands dirty or whatever. Feel free, it's not a big deal. But the oil, I like to use the oil. It also makes sure that a good amount is on there. And this is going to be pivotal for when we're pulling them out. Okay? You need to make sure that there's oil on there, because then they'll get stuck, and then it's not gonna be a good party. All right? Cuando puedas, taste it. All right, so I got oil on all of these. Not a lot, just literally just rubbing oil on them, okay? All right. I got my green beans here. You guys can see them. They're a little bit more grayish or opaque or whatever, you know, they're cooked, okay? I'm gonna season these green beans with just a little bit of salt and pepper, just so that it's not bland green beans in a very savory dish, you know, so that every time they get to the green beans, they're not like, oh, I want to get around it and just go back to the good stuff. So we're gonna give them a little bit of flavor. Just salt and pepper. Just stir it up a little bit. All right. Okay. So for the casserole, I'm using these cereal today. The other day I used old tortilla chips. Okay, anything works. We're just gonna pulverize it, kind of like you would for a pie crust. Okay. Give me a bowl. A little bit of that. Okay, that's okay. All right. I used the chips the other day. They don't have sugar. These have just a little bit of sugar, so keep that in mind. Keep that in mind for if you're for your dietary purposes, but also for the dish purposes. And I'm just gonna just crush it by hand. You know, you can use brick and mortar pestle. I'm sorry, mortar and pestle. This is kind of how I do it at home. We're kind of making not as fine as a breading, but I'll show you guys some pieces right now. But definitely don't want it all to be still intact. So, let me show you guys here. Okay? So it started with big pieces. Like the biggest piece is probably going to be half the size of what the thing came with, okay? These onions are imported onions. I think they're from France or something. They look fancy. I get some from the MT market. It's the Asian market too. Any of them really work. The French's one will work too. They're all vegan. There's none that are not really vegan. They don't have eggs in them or anything like that. This is really gonna make the dish stand out, okay guys? It's an important part of the dish. All right, we're gonna start off with the cereal that we crushed. We're just gonna make a little layer here in the bottom. All right, so I got this little bottom layer done. I'm probably gonna need to crush a little bit more cereal, but I got this bottom layer. I don't want to tilt it too much, but you guys kind of get the idea. We're gonna get these French onions. We're also gonna put that in the middle. We don't have to make a big layer. These don't layer, they kind of stay hard. We're not gonna crush them. We want these big pieces just like so. So we're just gonna put a pinch of them in each little cup. Right. All right, so I'm not sure if you guys could see here, but we got that bottom layer and then we got the French onion layers, okay? We're gonna get these green beans. And we're gonna put them in here. Don't overstuff this because we're going to actually put another layer on top. We're gonna flip them when they're done, so the top layer is actually gonna be the bottom layer. So we need to make sure that it also has structure. Probably turn that down or turn it off. Got a little bit of water. Cool Beans has been open for about 4.5 years. We opened in 2014. Yeah, November 2014. Okay, so the gravy that we just made right now, guys, is gonna go into this dish. It's the pivotal part of this dish. All right, so you can see here, I did not overfill it. Just put it in here, okay? Not overflow. All right. So then we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna get the crushed cereal or crushed chips. And we're gonna top it. Traditionally, green bean casserole has more like green beans and less of this stuff, but this is the good stuff. So I feel like we're gonna make it better. And it's Thanksgiving, you know. It's not like we're eating this every day. And it's okay if we have a little bit of big pieces. That's just gonna add to the texture, but we don't wanna have too many of them. The little pieces are going to actually cook and make kind of like, they're gonna solidify together. They're gonna make a wall. Okay. And then we're gonna top it off with those mushroom gravy, the onions. We'll put a little bit more. Like I said, these guys are the star of this little dish. So, you know, feel free to use as much as you feel you want to. If you really like onion, you know, go ahead and throw a bunch of on there. All right. So you can see not too overflown, okay guys? It's important because we want them to stay within themselves. Kind of like a quiche, okay? We'll check on this guy real quick. Just check to see if the rice is all the way cooked. I'm gonna add just a little bit of milk. I'm using soy milk today. Feel free to, if you guys are avoiding soy, feel free to use almond milk, rice milk, whatever you guys really want. I'm just using a little bit of soy. This one typically doesn't have any sugar or anything like that, so it doesn't change the recipe too much. And I'm not putting a lot. I'm just gonna put a little bit just to give a little bit of moisture within it while it's cooking, and gonna give it a little creaminess. You see me using this tablespoon thing, but I'm not using it all, maybe a little less than a tablespoon for it. We don't want to make it too wet because when we're pulling it out, we need them to be all together. So if we make it too wet, like it might stick. This is also going to kind of start the bottom crust. It's gonna start it getting soft, and then as it bakes, it's gonna make an actual crust. So that's the important part of what I'm doing here. At the same time, it is giving flavor to the dish with the creaminess of the soy milk.
This one needs a little bit of time to
Yeah, does it need more water? Yeah, you can add another cup of water. You can use broth. All right. Okay, so we got the mushroom gravy, just so you guys can kind of see the consistency of it. It's not too thick, not really thin either. And I'm gonna go ahead and try to avoid the mushrooms and just kind of throw some gravy in here. So just like I said about the milk, we don't want to put too much, but we do want to put enough. So what that looks like is we're gonna it's gonna look a little bit like where it's gonna smooth out over the edges, the gravy, and then it's gonna absorb into the dish that we're making right now. So it's about a tablespoon of gravy onto these things. But definitely take a look at it when you guys are making it yourself, that it's not overflowing with gravy. This is what's gonna make all the dish kind of come together and bind together, and all the flavors really mix well. This gravy is also gonna be used in the stuffing at the top for serving. Some of these will settle as you're like working with them. Some of them are bigger than others. You guys can go ahead and adjust as you see needed. Does anybody have any questions about what I'm doing right now? Okay. All right. So there we go. We got them all good and done. Okay. We're going to put these into the oven also at 375. Yeah. Yeah. Pull out these. Thank you. All right. Now we're going to check on these sweet potatoes from the beginning of the class. I think this one we'll put it here just in case. All right, and these guys are going in. Okay, cool. I'll check on that too. All right, so we got the sweet potatoes here. I'm going to take off this lid here. They're not going to be ready yet. What we're gonna do is we're gonna check them out. So they are definitely soft enough. Here with the knife, you can see that the knife is kind of going through them pretty easily. Not all of them. And the juices is kind of come out, they're in the bottom. We're gonna get those juices, put them on the top, or get the top layer, put it in the bottom, whichever way works for you guys. The idea is to stir it all together. We just want to make sure that all the sweet potatoes are touching this little juice that we have here going on, because that's where all the flavor is. Okay, now when we're going to put them back in here, we are not going to put the lid. We want this juice to evaporate. We want the juice to get a little sticky and almost candy-like. So we're not going to put the lids anymore. The lids were just for them to steam. Now they're pretty much done. So we're going to finish them off without the lid. The cinnamon. I'm going to add just a touch of cinnamon to these to kind of bring out the flavor. But you don't need to, you know, some recipes are very basic with these. You don't need to add too much. And I'm just adding just a little bit, guys, because cinnamon is very powerful, okay? So we don't want to overdo it. Okay, very nice. Then we're gonna bust out the vegan marshmallows here. I'm using the miniature ones, okay guys? So we're gonna create a layer with these marshmallows. I think you guys might have to go to Rabbit Food because I think I saw that they sold out of these here. So I actually bought the last of them, so. This dish, you know, these are all Thanksgiving dishes, so don't be afraid of like, oh, you know, like this is too sweet. Like, it's kind of how this dish is. This is a very sweet dish in general. So we're gonna top it with this marshmallows. And what we want, it doesn't have to be completely layered because they're going to spread out, but we definitely want to give them a chance to almost cover the top. So I'm using pretty much a bag. It's only missing a couple that, you know, some of my co-workers were eating earlier. Yeah. So that's that bag. Thank you. I'm gonna throw this back into the oven. Like I said, what we want now is the liquid to evaporate while the marshmallows melt. Okay, so that's what we're gonna be. That's our goal. Well, that's going. We got these acorn squashes. We're gonna put them to cook for about another 15-20 minutes. But this is gonna be a thing where you guys just watch it, okay? Just make sure that, like I said, the liquid evaporates and the marshmallows cook. I'm gonna flip this, suckers. Okay. These cooked a little longer than my previous squashes because I was here talking to y'all, but this is totally fine. And they got a little bit of this crust going because of we're using the same baking sheet. That's also fine. Okay, and as you can see, it's very soft. Okay, but I'm not gonna touch them right now because they're very hot. We're gonna wait. Guys, when you're cooking, try the food. Sometimes when I talk to my employees, they don't do it all the time because they're like, I already know what to do. You guys have recipes too. They always vary. Things change, the weather changes, all that stuff. So make sure that you're trying the food. In this case, more importantly with the wild rice, it takes a little long for it to cook. It's like brown rice. So you don't want to give your guests some hard rice, okay? So make sure that it's cooked all the way. So just try a little bit as you go. The gravy, also try it for flavor-wise. You know, if you make it a little salty, it's okay. You just make the rest of the stuff not salty, and then you're gonna add it to your dish. If it's lacking salt, then, you know, that's how you guys know. That's, you know, a mark of a good cook. You try all your food and you kind of adjust as you go. All right. I think this is done. Okay. So right here we got our lentils and our wild rice. And like I said about the bay leaves, I'm just gonna bust it out right now. You don't wanna lose it later and then have it, you know, someone have to take it out of their mouths when they're eating your food. So I'm just gonna pull it out right now. Okay. So like what I just tried it for right now was for flavor, but at the same time to see that the rice was all the way cooked. I'm gonna tilt this so you guys can see. It does not have an excess of water. It is moist, and that is gonna go away when we take off the lid and just kind of let it be, and also when we throw it back in the oven. But we like that moisture. That moisture is gonna allow us to throw it in the oven and cook it a little bit without it getting dry and crunchy. We don't want that. If you wanted a little bit more texture, you can add nuts, but we're not doing that. I don't typically do that for big shows like this because people might have nut allergies. So make sure that you find out with your guests before you throw nuts into all your dishes. But if you do throw nuts in here, I would recommend either walnuts or pecans. Okay, you can do almonds too. All right, so this is, like I said, done. It's really hot. Just gonna let it kind of cool off just a little bit so I can work with it. It's looking good. All right, everything's looking good. I need a spoon to get this out. Plastic, yeah, plastic on this board. All right, guys. So what we're gonna do now is do the actual stuffing of the squash. Okay. So here we go. We got the squashes. Now they're all cool to touch, but this is why we're doing twice baked, because we're not gonna serve them cold to our guests. So we're gonna, now they're cool to touch. The chef, the cook, can actually mess with them, and you can see here the little divots, the little holes that we have available for the stuffing. Okay. All right. And we're gonna give a scoop here. I'm gonna throw it here in the middle. And then we're gonna use the spoon to kind of press it too. This is gonna help because we're not gonna, you can serve this, if you have a very hungry guest, you can just serve it like that. You know, it's done, it's ready for them. We're gonna do is slice them. So we wanna make sure that it's nice and packed so that when we do slice it, it keeps its form. Okay, you guys see this? It's okay to go a little bit over, not too much, okay guys? Here you can see that it got a little soft here. I'm just gonna kind of make it a little harder by just giving it a little bit more of the puree on that side, so that when we cut it, it's not gonna just tear on that part. If you get a little tear, it's not a big deal. Like I said, don't throw a whole perfectly good acorn squash. Okay. All right. So we got all of these guys going. Look at that. It's pretty nice. Seasonal. All right. And so all we're going to do really is just bake them just to get it hot enough to serve. They don't need any more cooking. You can eat it like this. It's ready. But we're just gonna bake them just so that they get a little hotter for us to serve them. So this is also something you can do before. If you want to do this the night before and then just oven bake them that day, then they'll be ready to go. Okay? I really like this one. All right, guys, I'm gonna throw these acorn squash in, and I'm gonna take out the casserole. We're gonna check on it to make sure that it's all incorporated, all cooked up. All right, so if you guys can see the colors here, kind of how these are kind of coming out. Okay, what we want to look for is that the gravy or the liquid is not present anymore. That needs to be kind of cooked off so that they can come out without like breaking apart on you. As we do that, we're gonna throw these guys in here. And like I said, we're not going to necessarily cook it for that long, so these guys are going to be ready very shortly. All right, so we got these guys. I don't want to mess with it. I don't want to break them apart. But I do want to see if they're together. They look like they are. It's like the scariest part here, because it's like make sure. I'm gonna just let them be for a little bit because just gonna let them be. All right. So we have leftover stuffing. You can serve this as a side dish as well. It's not going to be a lot on the actual acorn squash itself. If your guest wants more food or whatever, that's definitely very hearty, very good to serve. It's typically it's like rice and beans. It's a very good thing to serve. And look, and this is how it looks, guys. Okay, this is, like I said, is a little bit moist, but that's okay. And while we're baking it right now, it's gonna dry. But you see the carrots here mixed with all the celery and stuff like that. The gravy, since we turned it off, I'm gonna turn it back on just to make sure that it's hot when we get ready to serve everything. A very spoiled stove top. I'm just gonna turn it on low. I need this guy. All right, guys, I am going to be attempting this flip. Please, please. All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna throw this clean, cleanish, cutting board on top of this. Okay. So we don't want to, and then, like all this stuff comes out. So this is gonna lend for a very clean flipping of these casseroles. Now don't fret if they don't all come out perfectly, guys. Like it's still gonna taste really good. But you see that? You guys better clap. All right. Thank you very much. But yeah, so when I made these at home, I was very happy with them. They're very beautiful. Yeah. Right. I am. It's like only like the second time I make them, so. Yeah, all right, guys. All right, so we got those guys going. I'm very happy that came out because you guys don't see what's going on over here. There's some craziness going on over here, and I'll fill you guys in on my mistake right here. But we're just gonna close the oven real quick. Okay, so these guys are hot. They're ready to go. If you guys can see this one right here, I'm gonna throw them just back in there just for a second. But you can see this one, my favorite. It's kind of cooking already on the edges. Okay, the inside, like I said, is gonna stay nice and moist, and we don't mind this crusty a little bit on the top. We don't mind that. It's gonna give it a little bit of texture, and it's gonna be it kind of makes it a little more hearty. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the oven if I can. Off right there. All right. So remember what I said about the marshmallows, guys? Yeah, definitely use less marshmallows. All right. But it does create a layer, like I said, all right? You can have your friends come and help you clean up this mess. It's gonna be a tasty mess either way. But definitely use less than the whole bag. And this is still super, super hot, guys. The liquid in the bottom is still, you could see it boiling, and it's only oil and the agave. So it's really, really hot. This is good. This is gonna be the hottest thing that you're serving, so be very careful with this. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this back in there now that the marshmallows are a little bit more in control. This is craziness right here. All right. All right, now we're gonna take out this again. Okay. So we need a cutting board. You have another one out?
Just have some plastic ones.
Yeah. There you go. Where's the serrated knife? All right, guys, so here's what we're gonna do with these guys. I'm using a serrated knife for this because with a regular knife like this, it might pinch, and we don't want the pinch because we're trying to keep the presentation of this really nice. So what we're gonna do is just kind of slice them. Let's start with half. Just slice them in half. A little bit less than half. Okay. And the serrated, we want a lot of like up and down motion and not a lot of pressing, because that's what's gonna change it, okay? So here, pass me a plate. So you can see how this one looks, a little slice. Thank you. This one with all the stuffing in the inside, if you carefully grab it, you can kind of put it on the side, and that's how you can like make it look nice. Make sure that it doesn't open up too much on you guys, but this is how it's gonna look on the plate, okay?
You can eat the skin?
No, I would not eat the skin, no. Yeah. Now, yeah, please. Now, if the serving is gonna be a little bit bigger than that, what we're gonna do is get half and just kind of like go down, just like you would like a turkey breast. Just kind of cut that. And kind of get the slices going here. So some of them will come out prettier, but like that's kind of the idea of what's going on here. You got slices, and you still got the stuffing in there. Okay. Now these, like, that's why we made these this way, so that the presentation could be nice on them. The gravy is gonna go on top of these. I'm gonna put a little bit on the bottom of the plate. I'm gonna serve one of these guys. And these are gentle, so be gentle with them, guys. You can serve one or two here. Exploding marshmallow yams coming right out. Also, if you guys have little miniature casserole dishes or like those little ramekin oven safe ones, the yams and the green bean casserole would look very nice in those. Like if you guys just bake them in those, you can serve them like that. So you don't have to mess with like all the flipping and all the marshmallow explosions. Could avoid all that mess, guys. Okay. Let me see first to make sure that they're definitely soft. Also, it'll look prettier. Pass me the plate. Okay. Okay. All right, guys. That's pretty much it here. And just to like beef up presentation, if you guys are gonna be serving cranberry sauce, that'll work here good. That'll add a little bit of color to it. And I'm just gonna kind of like add a little bit of the seasonings here on the plate, just to kind of give the plate a little bit more of a look. Just doesn't look like a basic white plate. But we don't need to add it onto the actual, to the actual food itself. The food is already flavored. So, you know, this is all optional. This is just little chef stuff, you know. But, so this is what we got. This is what we made today.